What should my signal be for you to fade? Like this?
Yeah. I'll just do this.
Lucky, I think you'll be good for business.
I was really just slumping in there.
Jeez. He's really tired today.
Just tired from listening to Courses BS.
Just so sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. Lucky, you think you can take a little snoozer? Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. It's kind of a mellow Wednesday. I'm a little bit tired. I did some traveling this weekend, and my little baby Lucky here, he's tired too, so he's going to be sleeping in my lap today. But I wanted to talk today about how to really change the circumstances of your life that you're not happy with. And there's so many little things that go into it that we really don't think about. And I think when we think about change and changing our lives, we tend to think big things, I have to change my job. I have to change where I live. I have to change the person that I'm dating. I have to change the person that I'm talking to. I have to change the way that I look. And we get really overwhelmed with that by thinking that, the only way we can really change is by doing these really big, huge things, when in fact, there are so many little things that play into the landscape of our life that can make things more livable for us. And I think when we're talking about landscape of our life, if you think of the landscaping outside your house, the trees you plant, the way you design it, the rocks, the plants you might put in front of your front door, the things that you see when you walk out your front door, all of those things contribute to the landscape, what's going on around you, the general, what it looks like. And so if you think about it, if you changed and planted some new trees or some new flowers or some new, put some new rocks or some new vases outside your house, it would look different and it might make you feel different. And so I want to talk today about the little things that we can do in our lives that can really change the landscape of the things that we're feeling. And one of those things that I think about a lot is what we look at on social media and what we watch. And it kind of came to mind today because nephew Zach and I, we were trying to figure out, how to expand on this topic and what we were going to talk about. And we started talking about news feeds, and he was showing me the things that he gets on his feed and we were comparing it to what I get on my feed. So for example, on my Instagram feed, I get mostly pictures of puppies, and I love puppies. And so when I'm looking at my social media feeds, I'm seeing really wonderful things that make me happy. I'm looking at a bunch of beautiful doggies. But Zach, when he looks on his social media feed, he was seeing all these really crazy, weird things that people were putting on because of their mental illness and, all these really crazy, sad things and upsetting things. And so if that's what you're being fed all day and that's what you're looking at all day, that then becomes your reality, where my reality is a bunch of cute puppies doing cute things. And so, if anyone has had the chance to watch Social Dilemma on Netflix, if you haven't watched it, you need to watch it, because it explains to you how the creators of social media apps and social media sites, how they infiltrate our brains with things that they're hoping that we will buy. And good morning, Jeremy. Nice to see you and happy Wednesday. And so we think about, it makes you really think about what you're seeing and what you're being fed. So when I'm talking about the landscape of your life and whether you like the landscape of your life or you don't, maybe these are some little small changes that you can start to make that might actually make you feel differently or better or less stressed. Because if our reality is every time we pick up our phone, we see something that's really upsetting and really disappointing, then that becomes the reality. And that's not a very good reality if you're seeing, constant negativity and so whatever the social media apps see that you look at a lot, they will feed you even more and more and more of that stuff, hoping that they will keep your attention. And then as they keep your attention, they can put more things in your feeds to sell you more things. And so it's good to just be aware of that so that you understand that what you're seeing on your social media feeds may indeed not even be reality. It's just the reality that some computer robot is making up for you. And is that really what you want your daily landscape to look like? And so if you see all this ugliness on social media, like the ugly politics and the ugly things that people are saying to each other on all the social media apps, then I would say that you have an opportunity to change that by kind of reorganizing the feeds and the things that you see on social media, and be very careful what you look at. What are you looking at on social media? There's really some very big problems that can develop from what you're fed. And one of the things I see in porn addictions, for example, is once somebody, looks up a lot of porn on their computer, then it's constantly being fed to them by all these other sites. And then before you know it, it's constantly in front of them. And people get hooked and they get addicted to it, just the same way they do to shopping. I've been a little bit of a victim. I don't say a victim because is my choice, but I've been, a person who gets all these shoes and clothes and jewelry and things fed to me because I'm interested in that. And then before you know it, I'm shopping all day online. And that's exactly what these companies want. It's what they're banking on. And it's why social media advertising is so effective. But from a therapeutic standpoint, we've got to ask the question, is that impacting your life? Is that creating a reality for you that is making you unhappy or bringing you down or creating stress? Just kind of like, what do you watch on TV? If you're constantly watching, politics, which again, that's something I can do, is then I get all worked up and angry all the time about what's going on in the world. And, and then I get addicted to it and I need to see more and more and more of it. And then I have to realize, oh my gosh, I better take a step back here because this is my reality. But it's not necessarily the reality, but it's my reality and it's making me anxious and upset. So why do it? Why do it? So I think these are the things that we have to really start thinking about in creating the landscape of our life. So the social media feed was one thing that we came up with. And I think that the younger people in Zach's age, they are seeing things on social media that I don't even know exist. And he's talking about things going on social media that I feel so disconnected from, that I wish I was more connected to so that I understood other people's reality more so than just my own. So again, I think the first thing is when we're looking to change our lives or make our lives feel better, make sure you're following things on social media that will improve your life. For example, this show. You could follow this show. And you can go subscribe to my YouTube channel, which I'm really wanting everyone to do at the Elizabeth 126. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and you're getting all positive, things that make you think, that will give you tips on how to, improve your life. Everything that comes from Liz Live is meant to be helpful and meant to be positive and or impacting positive change, even if we're talking about difficult things. And I think if we all stop a minute and think about, okay, what are we looking at every day? What are we feeding ourselves every day? And is this helpful or is it hurtful? So I try to follow people. The people I follow are people who are bring something really special to the table, that give a perspective of life that's beautiful or different or interesting, rather than following things that are going to make me angry and upset. So changing to begin to change the landscape of our life, if there's something that we don't like about our lives or we're unhappy, I think that's a really good place to start. It's so easy and it's so simple, but it's such a huge part of our lives that if we don't have that under control and organized, and probably most of us don't, then the reality that we see is pretty scary. And that really does impact the way we feel about life in general. And it impacts the way that we feel about what's actually going on in the world. I know also that there are certain feeds that, are just upsetting to me in general. Like I was just looking at TikTok just to look at it because I don't really know what goes on TikTok. And some people have mentioned to me that they think I should do some TikTok lives. And it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And it made me upset because I thought, well, if this is the current reality of the country I'm living in or the world I'm living in, I'm scared because it's ridiculous. It's everybody's trying to go live about stupid things like, they're exercising and hi, Lily. And they're doing all this dumb stuff on TikTok that doesn't contribute to the betterment of society. And, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, God, why do we all want to show every aspect of our lives? And why is it so important for us to go live and just while we're exercising? What is sacred anymore? What is private anymore? What have we become because of social media? Where have we gone? And I'm not against social media. I mean, I'm using it, and I use it in a way it's wonderful for me to reach a lot of people. But on the other side, when we're reflecting on ourselves and we're thinking about how to better our lives, and then we're seeing the garbage that goes on social media, I mean, it's really daunting. I mean, when Zach showed me TikTok this morning, I was disturbed. I really was. I saw the most ridiculous uses of, live social media, and that it's non-productive and it's showing too much of people's intimate personal lives. And I think the next question becomes, from changing the landscape and, making decisions about what you get on your feeds for social media, I think the other question is, what are you seeing on social media? And is it best to at times avoid it? And have we lost our way as a world, as humanity, insofar as where the boundaries are with our social media lives? How much do we really need to see? And is anything a sacred moment anymore, or is everything just a free-for-all? And if you look at TikTok, for those of you who maybe haven't, I mean, I couldn't believe what the ridiculous, and these people were getting like tons of live viewers, exercising in their house. I don't know, Zach, what were some of the other stupid things we saw on TikTok?
Dances are the number one thing.
Dances, okay, but now the dances, I think, are kind of cute. if you're, the dances are kind of cute. I've done them with my niece, my little niece, and it's cute and everything. But
It's weird when adults do it.
yeah, when adults do it, it's strange. But what's with all that live weird stuff that people are just,
Um,
I don't understand.
yeah, that one's hard for me to grasp. 'Cause
I mean, what is the point of TikTok? What was it invented for? I don't even know.
it's just like the newest social media. It is derivative of an old platform called Vine, where the concept is similar. It was just short videos that people posted of themselves.
Okay, well, and I guess like, do I really want to see this stuff from other people? Like, is it important? Is it going to help my life? Is it going to change my life? Hey Mike, I don't know. I find it odd, and but maybe it's my age, maybe it's not. And I'm all about getting involved with going with the times, but this stuff it impacts our mood, it impacts the way that we think, the information that's being fed to us, and I think what we put our attention on grows, and what we take our attention off of starts to minimize. So in changing the landscape of our life, what are we focusing on? Are we focusing on social media all day and all night in our relationships when we should be focusing on each other? Is there a line, a boundary of when we say, okay, that's too much to put on social media? And how do we know? I think, what is the question? And I think my answer at 45 may be very different than my nephew who's 25. I don't know. But like if I'm doing laundry in the morning, do I really need to go live about that?
No, the stuff that we saw that was more upsetting was like kind of displaying borderline traits.
Right. Okay, so we're going all over the place today, but I'm going to make it all make sense. Okay, so we're talking about the landscape, right? The general setup of your life. Okay, so who you talk to, what you see on TV, what you see on social media, who you choose to spend your time with, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and so we're looking at all these different things that we are parts of our lives in 2021, cable news, social media, et cetera, et cetera. And we're asking the question, or I'm asking the question as a therapist, how are these things impacting you on a regular basis, either in a negative or positive way? And I could talk about just that for hours, but I want to just jump on what Zach is talking about. So he was showing me that there are certain people in his age group that are wrestling with mental illness in some way. We saw borderline personality, depression, all kinds of things. And they were making these posts about it, and they were posting that what in my estimation is TMI, too much information, and almost bragging about, I'm mentally ill and I have to take all these medications. And so, if anyone else is on psych meds, make sure you do these things this summer and stay hydrated and some weird stuff.
And also look what I achieved while having all these.
And then look at me, because while I'm taking psych meds, because I have all these psychological problems of which everybody in the world should know about. Okay, so HIPAA goes out the window. I'm also amazing because I was able to accomplish all these things. And so are we oversharing? And if people are oversharing on social media, how is that impacting the mental health of the rest of us? And my feeling about it is that it impacts us greatly in many ways. When it comes to our moods, the way that we feel. So let's say, for example, you are going through a divorce, okay? You're going through a a bitter, nasty divorce for whatever reason. And there's issues with, the custody of your children. And, and this is real stuff. This is the stuff that people really do deal with. And then you go on social media and you see somebody, bragging about, their family and how wonderful, their relationships are with their children, and they're on vacation and they're all together, and you're going through this horrible divorce and might lose custody of your children, and your life is like turned upside down. Seeing that on social media, someone else's life going really well when yours is going really bad, unfortunately, can be very upsetting. And I watched a documentary once on social media and how these researchers at Harvard had taken brain scans of people who were looking at social media feeds. And what they found is that the brain waves were mimicking the brain waves of someone who has schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, meaning that they were up and down, up and down, up and down, which is not healthy. And the reason they were going up and down, up and down, up and down is because you would see one thing that would make you feel good, and then the next thing on your feed would make you feel sad, and then something would make you feel angry, and then something would make you feel scared. And so these feeds, which we may see as just an innocent part of our daily landscape, are actually really affecting our moods and the way that we feel and the way that we think about ourselves. And that's why I think talking about this today on the show is so appropriate, because therapists today, we're up against a lot with our clients, because not only are our clients dealing with whatever they're dealing with relationship wise, financially, relationally, politically, everything that's going on today, socially, social economically, culturally, but now we have to also worry about social media and how that's playing into a person's self-image and how that's playing into a person's reality and thought process. So self-image, I could do a whole show on that itself, and I've had the plastic surgeon, Dr. James O'Toole, on, talking to him about how he sees, as a plastic surgeon, social media impacting body image and self-image of women and men too. So I'm not going to go there today, but I'm talking more about mood-wise and how, what we're looking at on social media feeds our mood and feeds our view and our reality, and how the good news is that we can fix it. I'm not exactly sure how, but you can stop clicking on things that are negative and try to click more on things that are positive, or things that you like that make you feel good. And as I said, I love doggies. So if you go on my Instagram, you just see tons of dogs doing funny things, because that's my reality and that's what I choose. And that reflects to me joy and happiness. So when I go to my Instagram feed now, it makes me happy, because all I see is cuteness and a couple of my friends and stuff that they do, but I'm not a huge Instagram person. I'm more of a Facebook person, which could be my age group, but I don't find Facebook to be quite, as upsetting, but there's craziness there too. So I think if everyone just stops for a minute and thinks about, okay, what am I feeding myself on social media? What does my daily landscape look like because of social media? How is it making me feel about myself, about my life? How is it impacting my moods? And what can I do to change it if it's affecting me in a negative way? How do I change that and flip that around? And I know that, again, the more you click on things and the more you research things on Google or anything, the more your social media feeds are going to give you that topic. And you can learn about that by watching The Social Dilemma on Netflix if you haven't already watched it. How psychologically social media just sucks us in and then tries to make sure that we are following the things that they're feeding us, so that we'll click and we'll buy. And they can charge more money for advertising, and that's the bottom line. So what is your social media feeding you, and how is it creating the landscape of your life, and how can you change it if it is upsetting you? I know I work with a lot of younger girls and boys still in high school and or early college, and they get really mortified by seeing what some of their friends get to do that they don't, or how they're left out on social media instead of made to feel included. And we're judging ourselves by the likes. How many likes did we get? How many views did we get? And how can I up the ante to get more likes and views? And I think that's also where a lot of the craziness we see on social media is coming from, because we no longer are understanding and developing our self-worth and our value based upon human relationships and human achievement. Rather, we are now defining our value by the number of friends we have on social media, how they are, how many likes they give us, or, don't give us, or, thumbs down, or whatever the heck all you can do on all these. So it's very judgmental. It's a very critical, judgmental, hurtful world in social media. And I think as parents, we want to look and see what our kids are looking at so we can protect them to some degree. But parents, we also have to look at ourselves, and what are we being fed? What are we watching? What are we watching on TV? What are we watching? What kind of music are we listening to? And I'm not saying to be like, I'm not saying that we should all be like, religious, zealots and not watch anything. Or, totally shut off the world. But I think that we do have the ability and the power to fix that and change that if it's not going well. And if you don't like things that people are posting, or you feel like kind of hurt or put off, or it's making you feel bad about yourself, unfollow or unfriend that person. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing that if it's something that's negative. Zach, let me ask you, in your age group, how much do you think of your self-worth and your value, maybe not you specifically, but your crew, your people your age, are getting from social media?
I think it varies a lot from person to person. There's plenty of us who are like well-rounded and grounded in reality.
Yeah.
But then lots of us are very tied in with social media, and there's a reason that Instagram went and obscured the number of likes that everyone got. Because that was actually an example of them taking action to mitigate the mental health effects.
So what did they do?
Well, it used to be on Instagram, you could go and see how many likes everyone got. And this might be an option now instead of mandatory.
Okay.
Forced, rather. But then recently, I think this was sometime in the past year, they made it so instead of seeing so-and-so got like 1 million likes, it just, if you know anyone who liked it, it'll say, such and such of your friends liked it, and others. Instead
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that. So that's to keep away the numbers becoming so prevalent.
Yeah. So, and they did that because so many people, and particularly younger people, I would think, are getting so wrapped up into it that they are associating their self-worth with their likes.
With their likes, yeah. And, so if that's an issue for you, then you may want to cut back on your social media time, or if you go on social media, use it differently, because I think it's like social media is not necessarily something that has to be judged as good or bad, but I think rather it's sort of how we use it, like anything else. I saw an interesting like meme today on Facebook earlier, and it said saying, I forget how it's exactly, but saying that guns kill people is like saying that pencils failed my exam or something. Like that it's a tool that without human a human using it, it's sort of like a benign tool, or that tool could be used in so many different ways, but it's up to how the human uses it and puts their energy behind it. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little saying. You would never say, oh, my pencil made me fail this exam, right? That would be preposterous. You would never think that. But in the same regard, people are saying, well, guns kill people. Well, they do. Guns do kill people. I mean, come on, they do. But they don't do it by getting up on their own and shooting someone. They get it from the human picking up that gun and then using that gun in a particular way. And I think that social media is sort of the same thing. There's ugliness about social media, and there's beauty in it. I mean, the way it connects us, the way that we have so much access to information, and the way that we can learn and see so much from those connections are wonderful. But on the other side, it's also very bad when you're not using it in the correct way. And that's up to us as human beings to decide how we're going to use it and how we're going to allow social media to frame the landscape of our lives, to frame our lives. So it's very much up to us and how we tend to do, we use it or we don't use it, and how often we use it. And I think we have to be really honest about ourselves when we are, not using it in a way that makes us feel good, that we have to acknowledge that. And boundary, the use of social media and how and why we're using it. How and why are we using it? I know I use it professionally and I love it. I really do. But I definitely don't use social media to, determine. I don't really use it for anything personal, not usually. And that's my boundary. I mean, I might put up something with my family or my dogs, but that's about it. And I wouldn't go live in my personal life. I use it for business. How could I use social media to help more people, to get more clients, and to create a brand, I suppose, for the Liz Live show and for the therapy that I do. But I don't go in and, hey, this is me, cooking in the kitchen. Who cares what I'm doing in the kitchen? You know what I mean? Like, nobody cares. So I have those boundaries for myself, and it's really nice because I don't sweat social media at all, because I'm not really putting anything out there that's personal. If people don't like my business or they don't like what I'm talking about, they may say something nasty and I can just, delete it, and I don't take it too hard. But I think for the rest of us that are bearing our souls and putting so much out there, it makes you very vulnerable. And are you really prepared to handle that? Because it takes a lot of work to be able to handle it. And so I think those are things that we have to think about. And we have to think about, like, okay, so social media is in fact a part of most of our lives in one way or the other. How are we going to handle that, frame that, make that work for us during the day? Coming late to the party. What's up, Tara? That's okay. I came late to the party today too. I'm really tired today from traveling and whatnot. But we're talking about social media and how social media has such a large role in the landscape and the framing of our lives, and how what we see on social media can impact our moods and the way that we think, and how it's really important to sort of take control of that. And if your Instagram feed looks like mine does, it'll be very happy because it's all cute puppies and dogs doing funny things. Okay, where my nephew and I were seeing his stuff this morning on his feed, which is more, younger people, like, not really sure of how to handle themselves yet, and putting some pretty personal information out on social media, which, he and I both, disagree with that. And then sort of bragging about it, so it's really, really odd. You see some really strange things out there. And, is that really our reality, or is that just what we see that is our reality? And it's hard to know when your only connection to the outside world is through social media and not through real human relationships. So I think we also have to remember that social media is a reflection of society. It's a reflection of us, but it isn't us. You know, if you ever heard the saying, the map is not the territory, you know, the map is a sketch or a representation, a symbol of a territory, but it's not the territory itself. So social media is a reflection of us as a society, but it's not actually society. And so we have to be very careful how it makes us feel, who and what we're watching. And if we know that it's making us feel badly about ourselves in some way, then there are things that we can do about that. And we can, of course, change the information, change what we look at and what we follow, so that we don't get overly sucked into any kind of negativity on social media, because it's such a huge part of our lives. And I also think it's worth mentioning that, you know, as important as the landscape of our life is when it comes to social media and how it's so interconnected and such a statement lately about, you know, who we are and what we believe in, that the human relationship is not dead. It's not dead. And I think that if you look at your screen time versus your time with other human beings, it would be very shocking to see how much more time you're spending on a screen than you are with people. And I think that's also part of the landscape of our lives that needs to be reevaluated. Social media is not a person. It's not the same flow and interaction that you have with people. It's a computer organizing information in certain algorithms and spitting it back out to you and trying to suck you in so you continue to watch and never put it down. That's not what human relationships are about. And if you're spending more time on your screen, which you can tell most phones can keep tabs on it, if you're spending more time on your screen than you are in human relationships, that needs to change, because that is also part of your life landscape, right? It's part of your life landscape. Let's see what awesome questions Tara Lee has for us today. Why do people feel compelled to put their entire life on display? You know, we were talking a lot about that last week on the show. Or yeah, when was that show we did? We did a Friday Night Live, and then it's on my YouTube channel. So you can now all go to my YouTube channel to watch Liz Live. Please subscribe. The Elizabeth126 on YouTube, or hashtag Talk Show Therapy. Put it into YouTube. And so I think the reason they do it, it feeds into not just the narcissistic issue that we talked about the other day, and that, you know, social media is creating narcissism. But I also think that it is because people are defining their value and their self-worth by social media, by likes, by the attention gaugers, that becomes so critical to them. So the more of their lives they can, you know, I guess, put out there, the more attention they're going to get back. And it's like a feedback loop. And it's like, oh, I'm getting so much attention on social media and, you know, likes and this and that. So, you know, people like me. And so I'm going to keep feeding the beast, you know, I'm going to keep feeding that. And it gets into like this attention seeking feedback loop. So the more I put out there, the more attention I get, the more crazy stuff or more personal stuff I put out there, the more people look. And just like with celebrityism, we watch people that we don't know and we think we know them from their social media, when in fact, that's not who they are. That's just who they want you to think they are. There's a big difference. Big difference. So I think the whole life being on display is really attention seeking. Bottom line, just trying to get more attention from likes and views and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. I think people are now more concerned with virtual likes, followers, and friends than they are with real life friends and relationships. Yes. And that's just exactly what we were talking about. That, if you're looking at your life landscape, meaning everything that's around you, okay, and your screen time is higher than your people time, you may want to do something about that. I would recommend as a therapist that you do something about that, because human relationships are the best relationships. Do you think social media has chipped away at people's in-person social skills? Yes, I do. The younger generation, they have very minimal social skills. They don't know how to shake hands and look you in the eye. They're very socially awkward because they're looking at this. They're looking at this. They're not looking at you. And this doesn't look back at you. It's a machine. So, yes, I think it is chipping away at our social skills. And if you sit here and look and talk to a screen all day, which many of us do, in all ages, then yeah, you forget, oh, well, if I say something, then someone's going to say something back to me, and so on and so forth. It's normal conversation. This is a filter. It's a filter for how we see things, and it's a filter for how we want to present things, and it's not real. It's not real. Listen to that thunder. We've got some Miami spring rainstorms going on down here. Let's see. I've seen kids having play dates, and each one is on their device. Example, iPhone, iPad, etc., and not just the kids, the parents too. Kids are forgetting how to play and interact. Yeah. And, if I were a parent today, which I'm not, but if I was, I would really limit that screen time. I mean, myself and with the, because you have to, and I think it's becoming a thing of the past, like, who sits around the dinner table anymore and eats dinner together every night like I did when I was growing up? I mean, nobody. They're all running off to this and that and watching this and that and sitting on their phones. A whole family sit all night in the living room and look at their phones. It's terrible. It's terrible. And a lot of times when I'm working with couples, I make them limit that. As a parent, how do you balance not wanting your child to be consumed by technology and not wanting them to be the only one without a phone or tablet? I think it's a great question. I think it's up to the parents to make those boundaries. Those are boundaries. That's discipline. Those are rules. You can let your kid go on social media. I mean, again, I'm not a believer of extremes and saying, no, you can't ever go on social media when it's such a big part of our lives. But I think that you have to put in rules. You can use it for, this amount of time, like from 8 to 9, you're allowed to do it, or 7 to 8, but not when we're eating dinner, not when we're having family time. And I think it's up to the parents to set that stage, and decide what's appropriate. And if parents are not paying attention and they're overusing it themselves, then they're going to not care that the kids are overusing it. And I think to a large degree, social media has won. I really do. And it saddens me. It saddens me very much, because nothing feels as good as human relationships. And that's part of why I love doing this live show, because I get to interact, I think, with other people. Maybe that's why I like it so much. I don't know. Because yes, I'm on a camera and I'm on a screen, but there's actual people on the other side of it. And that gives me good energy that I need. Just hit me. So again, this is something that we're all dealing with, and this is something that we can all take control of and organize in our own lives. Really pay attention to what it is we're looking at on social media. what's coming into us on our feeds, how it's impacting our mental state, our moods. And if there are things coming to us, into us from social media that we don't like, that don't make us feel good, we don't need to keep it there. We don't need to keep it there. We can change that. And I think we should change it, and we should reevaluate the things that we are constantly being fed, because that is what is making up our reality. And only we can change our reality. Only we can change the things that make up the landscape. Do you think cancel culture grew out of social media? Oh, 100%. Cancel culture would not exist without social media, because all these people who are out there canceling, they're too damn lazy to actually get off their ass and go and do a real boycott. So yeah, they use easy peasy social media with a click and a post and a click to try to ruin someone's life. So yes, cancel culture would not exist without social media. In my view, not at all. And like I said, all those people who cancel other people for stupid reasons, they do it for their own selfish reasons, and they're too lazy. If you got any of those people and said, you actually have to get off your ass and go down and protest and stand in front of someone or boycott or give something up that actually took human time, they would never do it. That's why cancel culture makes me want to vomit, and I hate it. How much responsibility do you think social media needs to take for spreading misinformation? A lot. But the problem becomes, how do you determine misinformation? We're getting hacked by other countries. We don't know what we really don't know what they're doing. We don't know. We don't know what they're up to. We don't know if half of what we see is real or not anymore, information-wise on social media. So we have to be very skeptical of it. And, really, really, really careful about what we believe and what we see. Because how do you control that? You can't. You really can't, unless you want to take away free speech, which I do not support. So social media is in a sense, sometimes when I look at social media, I think it looks like a garbage can. Like all the stuff that I see is like garbage, 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 garbage. So us, the consumers of social media, have to be aware and have a discerning mind, and we need to teach our children the same thing. Don't believe everything you see on social media or read, because anyone can put anything they want on social media. It's not really regulated, unless, of course, it's a political position that differs from, that particular social media outlet. They control that now. What are your thoughts on Facebook and Twitter banning President Trump? Oh. Well, I think it is absolutely disgraceful, is what I think. I think that nobody should be banned. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe that, the social media and mainstream media has made a complete monster out of President Trump. And because they don't like him just saying sometimes the truth in a harsh way, they're going to say you can't speak on our platform anymore. It's disgusting. I don't know what else to say about it. And what really disgusts me, because I'm the person that will do this, is I will go and look at some of the filth that is you can do. Like, so for example, I was looking at like the frames that you can put around your profile pictures, and they had all these like anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, pro, like Palestine, pro, terrorist frames that you can put around your profile picture, and that's fine. But we're going to ban a former president because we don't like his view. That makes zero sense to me. And so that sends a very bad message to this country, and it sends a very bad message to all of us who use social media and, you know, are trying to understand the landscape of it and what's going on. That it's almost scary and it's almost intimidating that if you don't agree with the, you know, certain speech or views of that social outlet media, that social media outlet rather, that you could actually be banned or shut up. But they don't do it to, you know, every bad group. They just do it to him. It's really weird. I mean, I'm telling you, go ahead and go through all the social media outlets and you will see some of the most horrible, ugly, hate speech stuff all over the place. But you won't see President Trump. And I think that it is disgraceful. That's what I think. If I could be any more clear. What are your thoughts on the Facebook fact checkers? I don't know much about them, to be honest with you, to really comment. But again, you know, social media is it's not regulated. You know, it doesn't adhere to any kind of federal FCC regulations or anything like that. They have their own immunity granted by Congress. So they don't have to go by any standards, and they don't have to fact check, and they don't have to do any of it. And so again, if your fact checkers are hired by or internally hired by Facebook, then they're going to be biased for Facebook. So I would say they're not really fact checkers. They are promoters of a political view guised as fact checkers. They're not really fact checkers. They're just saying, oh, you know, we are the authority. We are the fact checkers for Facebook. Well, who are you? What's your education? You know, what's your research? Where's it come from? It's all propaganda and it's all crap. So we as Americans who spend so much time on the screen, you know, we spend so much time on the screen. Social media is such a big part of our lives that we have to really stop and think, you know, what is this doing to the landscape of our lives? And even now we're getting deeper into the issue and even into politics, because that frames our reality as well. So I think as long as we have a discerning eye and we understand what's going on, you can keep yourself safe and you can keep yourself from, you know, being sucked into these different narratives and these different stories. And you understand that, you know, these social media outlets are private companies, publicly traded, of course, but they're private companies. They have complete immunity to following any kind of standard. And so be aware, be critical, be careful what you are allowing into your headspace. Be careful what you are allowing into your, you know, into your landscape, because all of that stuff that you allow in from social media creates a reality, and that becomes your reality and what you believe. And so you have to be very careful, very careful. Why would Congress grant them immunity? Okay. Well, you know, I would say I don't know why they did that. I mean, that was done many, 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 many years ago. And I think the idea behind it was that social media has such a huge audience and such a huge reach that it would be impossible to even attempt to regulate anything on social media because there's too many people, and there's there's too many different, information streams flowing. So it'd be impossible. It's not like with the newspaper or a TV station where things are heavily like organized and guided and all those things. So I think in the beginning, it was, well, we're going to grant them immunity from these certain provisions and regulations because we can't regulate it. It's impossible. But now, from within, social media is saying, well, yes, we can regulate it, and we're going to regulate ourselves. We're going to sort of self-police. And so then they wind up, promoting their own agendas, just like anybody else or anything else. So I think that as long as we know that and people understand that and they're aware of that, then we're okay. It's not knowing that and not understanding that is where we get into trouble as far as our self-worth, our own values, our moods, our perspectives, our feelings of reality and what's actually happening in the world. It's very, very skewed and jaded everywhere you look. Don't believe it. Don't believe the hype that you see. And don't believe that you're less than or that your views or thoughts don't count because it's not being championed by a particular social media outlet, and don't give social media too much power over you and the way you feel about yourself and your relationships and the way you live your life. And I think we've done that. I think it's too late. And now we're figuring that out and we're trying to get a hold of it. Everyone who uses social media should watch. Yes, we talked about, definitely watch The Social Dilemma on Netflix. It's incredible. And, really stop and think about what your reality of this world is, what your reality of yourself is, how you feel about you, and how your social media landscape is informing that and shaping that. It's critical for your mental health to really understand that. And I will wrap it up on that note. So as I wrap it up, we are we putting up anything with the...
Oh yeah, we give our plug here. We'll turn up our music.
Yeah, the music, and we want you to just see where you can go. Doesn't Zach look cute in his new shirt? I love it. Okay, so what you can see behind me on the screen behind me is youtube.com// The Elizabeth 126. The Elizabeth 126. I don't know how I came up with that. I don't remember, but it's there. So all you have to do is go right there and hit subscribe. And tell everybody you know to do the same. Share the link so that we can go live on YouTube and reach and help more people, and helping more people is so important. That's what we're here to do, is help people. So think about your social media landscape, make the appropriate changes, and don't let it control your life. Let human relationships be the biggest part of your life and the biggest part of your joy. And I'll see you, today's Wednesday. I'll see you guys back here at 11 a.m. Saturday, and watch all the reruns or any Liz Lives that you've missed on YouTube. That's why I want you to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Thank you for watching, everyone. YouTube The Elizabeth 126 and hit subscribe. Have a nice Wednesday, everybody. Thank you. She put it up.